Good afternoon. My name is Martha Howerton. We're here today on October the 11th. It's a beautiful early fall day. I'm sitting here with Rebecca Howerton. I like to give a title to people that I interview, and I had to struggle, but it didn't take me too long to figure out a title for Rebecca. But here's how the title came about. To be a volunteer, it takes generosity, a willingness to give your time to others, understanding because their lives might be different from your own, empathy, an ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and feel what they must feel, compassion, to truly care about someone else's life, patience, because the process doesn't always go as smoothly as you would like, dedication, to stick with the project and see it through. That was written by an unknown volunteer, and Rebecca, you show these qualities and so many more. Thank you for being with us today, and I want to make sure I get your name correct. Rebecca Louise Beckman Howerton.
That's it.
Okay. And
Right.
When were you born?
May the 12th, 1934.
And where were you born?
I was born in a little rock house that used to be over there next to the Weber house that the Catholic Church owns. That little brown rock house. I was born there. Dr. Fulcher was the doctor, and my two grandmothers were the nurses.
Were your parents living there?
Yes, they were paying $2 a month rent.
And your ancestors came from Germany?
Yes.
And your great-grandfather was Richard Beckman?
No, my great-grandfather was Heinrich Beckman.
Okay.
Yes,
Tell me a little bit about them real quickly.
Well, my great-grandfather and grandmother came from Alsace-Lorraine. They came over here with some sons, and one of his brothers, no, two of his brothers came also, and one of them went to Fredericksburg, and their descendants own the Fredericksburg Furniture Company and the funeral homes. There are two of the funeral homes. Another one went to Yorktown. He dropped one of the N's because he wanted to Americanize it, and I discovered that cousin when I was in college, and she has one N on her name there. But my great-grandfather then first went to New Braunfels, then to Fredericksburg, but he ended up back here in Blanco. And in 1871, he built the little house that Renee Benson now owns as her office. And he had a gin and a mill there. And he bought each one of his sons a ranch. My grandparents were on the ranch that is McCall Creek. And
Right.
it of course, after my grandmother passed away, it was sold, and then many places it was divided up into ranchettes, and there are a lot of people that are living out there now. But in other places around, on the outskirts of Blanco, there are still some of the land that he had purchased for his sons.
When you call a place home, is it a fair statement to say that Blanco indeed is home?
Yes, because when I went off to college, almost every weekend I came home. Didn't have a car, mother'd come get me, and so came home. When my girls were little, we always came home for Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas. That was just a normal thing to do because mother was doing the cooking.
And I bet it was good.
Yeah, and even after they were grown and out of college and all that time, we always came home to mother and dad now. And that was just the thing to do. Blanco is home, you know.
Well, I understand that, and it might be a little bit of where you got it from. Your mother made a statement. She said, "We moved to Blanco. We've been here ever since. And our next move will be to the cemetery."
Absolutely correct. Absolutely
And
correct.
that tells
yeah.
me a lot about your lifetime here in Blanco. You've stayed with Blanco.
They, Dad never traveled out of the state except for 2 times in his whole life. He went to Georgia when they were married 50 years, and Mama didn't want anybody to know she'd been married to him that long, she said. So they wouldn't have a party, so they went to Georgia to see some friends that were raising some Santa Gertrudis cattle that Daddy liked. And he came to Oklahoma when I was living in Oklahoma, where my oldest daughter was born. And they lived here. Mama was born and raised in High, Texas, just over the hill. And Dad was born and raised here in Blanco, and he always he said, "Blanco people are nice people, and I like being here with my friends." And he said, "Someday I'll be in the cemetery with my friends," and he is. And Mother, in fact, has one of her sisters and brother-in-laws over in the cemetery. And Daddy has his sister and his brother and their family over in the cemetery, so it's all together.
So school started, you went to school here in Blanco,
Right?
got out of school, and did you pretty well know where that you were going to be headed with your life?
Well, Mother knew. I can tell you that because I started the first grade here, and then that year they decided to put in a 12th grade. So all of us who passed the first grade, we skipped second, went to third grade, and went on through school then, and had great times. We didn't realize how great our days were. Ms. Houck, our 4th grade teacher, was very insistent that we practice our handwriting, our little circles and all. As a result of it, most of us ended up with nice handwritings.
Tell me what you mean by that, Rebecca, when you said we didn't realize how really good we had it.
Well, being a small town, we always thought that the big city was the place to go. And we really didn't realize that we had it great here because we knew everybody. There were 200 people living here, and we knew everybody. If we needed some help, there was a parent who would help us, and of course they would let our parent know. We did something wrong. Our parents knew it before we got home even. And because I remember one time, we were seniors, it was right at the end of school, and we decided to cut class and drive in the park, and we were driving along, looked back, and here came Mr. Helms driving right behind us, the superintendent. "I'll see y'all all back at school."
No!
We did, and he said, "Rebecca, you think I need to call your mother and your father?" Oh, did I do some begging and pleading? No way did I want my mother to be called and told about that. No, sir. And he was really concerned about it. He knew all the parents on a first name basis. And we respected him. We respected all of our teachers.
Yes.
Whatever they said, that was the law.
So Rebecca, your mother decided that college was going to be in your life, and tell me how fast you got to going, and where did you go to college at?
Well, when I said, I was going to just take it easy, my mother said, I don't think so. She said, "You are going to Southwest Texas. School starts in 2 weeks, and I've already been down and enrolled you." Dad and I sat at that table with our mouths open, and she said, "Yes, and you'll be there for the next 3 years because you don't have anything better to do." Well, I, at that time, thought that was just horrible, that I was going to have to go off to school like that. But now that I look back, if I could go back to that. I had so much fun there at college, met so many fun persons. We went dancing. Oh, did we dance. Sometimes we cut class to be back in and dance and play the jukebox for a nickel. because I
Or a
didn't have
nickel.
them. Yeah, you
So
could
that
play
was,
it.
that was a very highlighting time
Oh,
of your young
yes. But I didn't think about that at that time as that. But I did stay for 3 years, and Mother was right. I had nothing better to do than to go to school.
And what'd you major
And
in?
I majored in physical education with an English minor.
Uh-huh.
And turned out I taught 12 years of physical ed, of K through 12, and I taught 32 years of English.
Well, I came across a little something that you had taught in the Houston Independent School District, and you had actually gotten Educator of the Year award. Am I correct on that?
That is correct.
Can you tell me briefly about that?
Well, I taught the English, and I also had the AP classes. They weren't labeled as that, but I had all
But they even
the
had the AP class, right?
Yeah, they
Go
didn't
ahead.
really have that per se, but I had all these students on a higher level than any of the others. We did the yearbook down there, and I loved writing stories, creative stories. And I had this one young man who wrote I told him, I said, we're going to write a story today. You know, he wrote a story about Billy on the Bayou. Well, then I happened to see that the Houston Chronicle was having a contest, a writing contest. And I said, let's see about that and enter your paper. And so we got all the rules and regulations. Well, we had to add some more words because it had to be at $800, at least 800 words in it. Well, we got through and we turned it in, didn't think another thing about it. And about 3 weeks to a month later, I got this phone call from one of the employees at the Houston Chronicle. Well, did you help this child write the story? No. Did this child's parents help to write? No. You mean this child wrote this story by himself? And I said, yes. No. And I said, where's this going? Well, out of 3,380 entries, he won 3rd place.
Oh my gosh.
And so the Houston Chronicle hired an illustrator to illustrate his story, and it was in the Houston Chronicle, then the whole thing with the illustration, and well, of course, they recognized him, and then they sent me a laminated copy, which I have at the house, of the whole story, and I was so excited for him. And then I had another little boy. He wrote a paper one time and was awarded 1st place on that, and we were asked to come to this dinner to receive the award, and there were four Caucasians there.
And the rest were?
The rest were Negroid. And it was a fabulous organization that they had, very educational organization. And he received his award, and that was quite an experience.
So how did you get that? So when did the Educator of the Year award come for you?
Oh, that was 1984. 1984.
How'd you feel about that?
Well, I was very, very humble that they would choose me, you know. We had 1,600 and some odd students in that school, and that was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I had 21 teachers in my department when I started out.
Right.
And then as the year, and I also, the Houston Independent had a fair for math, and they had a fair for science, and that was it. And I said, well, why don't you have a fair for English?
Of course.
Nobody wants to do that. Well, I said, I will do that. So then we started having English fairs, and I had wonderful principals who didn't mind allowing me to spend some money to decorate. One year I had Snoopy and all his friends carved out of wood, and we had the library decorated. And then see, I had sent out invitations to all these other schools, bring samples of your students' writing to put in the fair. Then I would have judges, and then we gave out prizes, you know, and it was just wonderful how the people wanted it to be done. And then I was always going to workshops all the time. They had wonderful workshops in Houston Independent. Always gave the teachers wonderful meals to come there, and then also gave us prizes for attending. And everybody just knew me, and I was a presenter many times at some of the workshops.
I want to ask you a question about teaching. I want to ask you, what if you could pick out all your memories, and I want you to concentrate on students, which one stands out as your best one? Do you have one that is your favorite or your best memory of a student?
Oh, well, I had such wonderful, I'm going to have to say a school, Fredericksburg High School.
Okay.
In the 60s. I started teaching freshman English and then 11th grade English. Those are the two that I taught at Fredericksburg. Dr. Herster was one of my students, and he told my mother one time when he was working on her that your daughter was the toughest teacher I ever had.
Good.
But he knew his English. I demanded that they know all the rules of grammar.
Good.
And I gave them, on the end of the school year, I always gave them a 24-page fill-in-the-blank test. When you look at the young people that came out of those classes and what they are today, like Gary Staling, president of Security State Bank, Leland Geiswhite, president of American Bank, Peggy Metzger, vice president of Chase Bank, Dr. Walker, John Walker. John, he was in my 9th grade English, and he told me, he said, when I walked out of there, I said, thank God I will never see that woman again. I was so tough on him. But when he walked in my 11th grade English class, he said, oh my God. He said, you told us I am preparing you for college. And he said, oh. He said, you turned us every which way but loose. And I said, and did it help you? Oh, yes. When he went to college, he didn't have to do anything. He had already had the English because I had taught it. And John is a doctor of dentistry. He has a law degree. He teaches at the University of Houston, and he is such an intelligent man. Such an intelligent young man. It's always been my pride, and I know when I was teaching in Houston, he was my dentist then. Mm-hmm. And even though he gave me 10% off, he still got bukus of money, you know, now, because of his work.
Do you have a bad one? A thing that a student or a memory in teaching that you wish could have gone differently?
The only bad memory I had is a discipline in Head Start school. Those little 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, mm-hmm. They were tougher than me.
Yeah.
They were tougher than I am. And that was my last, I taught 46 and a half years. And they were the last ones, you know, that I dealt with. And I finally said, I can't take this. Either I'm too old or they're too young, something in between here, because it didn't happen. You know, I mean, I've had all kinds of students. When I was teaching in Houston, we were still allowed to paddle, and one time I had to give a kid 3 licks because I told him I was going to do it. He was always purposely tardy so that the rest of them wouldn't get the ice cream treat. I told him I was going to give him 3 licks. I gave him the 3 licks. He wasn't tardy anymore. And we got the ice cream parties then, you know? Yeah. And one time I had a little 6th grader. He had a terrible handwriting. You couldn't read it. His parents couldn't read it and all. And I just made him rewrite and rewrite till I said, get it legible. One day he said, in front of all the class, you know, you are a bitch.
Oh.
And I said, oh, son, I am not only a bitch, but I am a juggernaut. I knew he didn't know what that was. I said, I'm a juggernaut, and I am just going to roll over you the rest of the year, and every time you look up, I'm going to have so much work for you to do. You will have no time to worry about what I am. and I guarantee you I did it. Every time that poor child looked up, I had another paper for him to do. I had another book for him to read because he didn't like to read. Next year, he comes back. He's in the 7th grade. And his mother said, I want you to know that I appreciate your forcing him to do what you did, because he read all summer and his handwriting has improved immensely.
Great.
Thank you.
With all the things that you've done with your education and teaching, did you happen to find time to fall in love and get married?
Oh, yes. That came along.
Did you have any children?
Yes. When I was teaching in New Braunfels, I met the girl's dad. I was playing tennis, and there he was, so good looking and all, and fell head over heels, and yes, married him against my mother's wishes. And anyway, had 2 children, 2 wonderful daughters, and that's their dad. He passed away about 4 years ago, and he at that time he was a colonel in the Army then.
Wow.
But the girls went to school. They did all the things they needed to do, and he would eventually he checked on them and said, well, how are they doing? Then he finally started picking them up and asking them to come down to his place on Lake McQueenie down there, and they knew him before he passed away, and he was in the Korean War.
Wow.
And he had lots of medals that he had earned during his service time. And yeah, they was, yeah, you know, you make choices. Sometimes they're not right. But my mother wanted me to marry a certain young man that went to Blanco. But I didn't do that, and he still isn't married. He's an old bachelor, but that's beside the point.
That's beside the point.
Yeah.
I want to get into your volunteer work that you've done that I think everybody knows you for so well, but I have a question to ask you. I want to know if you have any goal or an idea of achieving something that your father wanted you to do, and I don't believe you've done it yet. Do you have any idea what I might be talking about?
Well, I have no idea, because I remember Dad and I talking, and Dad saying, I built this house for you and your mother, and after we're gone, I certainly hope that you'll stay here, and I'm not planning to move anytime soon. Going to stay in the house there. I am going to replat the properties, because I've decided that taking care of all that's there is too much for me. But I'm not planning to move, because I walk into my house and I look at all those deer horns on the
Well, now
wall.
you touched on it. You touched on it.
And
You touched on it.
no,
Have you been able to go hunting for a bear?
oh no, no.
Your father wanted you to do that,
Oh, we talked about that. Yeah, we talked about going hunting, but I'm telling you, now I'm not going hunting for any bear. Summer before last, when I was in Colorado, I met Renee in Denver, and then we drove over to Wyoming. We went to Jackson Hole, and then we were always driving. They did the driving so that I could just look and look and look, and we saw some bears. And, you know, now I look at all those animals and I think, oh, those are just beautiful animals. I'm not going to do any more hunting, though.
But you have done your share of hunting.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I have 54 covered horns and shoulder mounts in the den, as it is.
Do you have an idea of what your biggest one was?
My biggest one was this shoulder mount that I have. I saw this deer coming across. I was hunting, Dad and I were hunting at the 7-Eleven over at Bernie. And it was a drizzly, horrible day, and I was sitting up in this blind and getting colder and colder all the time, and I saw this buck coming. And, oh, I looked at him through the scope, and he was such a pretty buck. Well, I shot him, and then when Dad came up, I said, oh, Dad, look at this pretty color. He was sort of a gray and a white mixture. I said, I really want a shoulder mount out of this one. And so Lyndon Price did that work, and he has a slight turn on the head, and I'm really proud of that. And Dad had one done, a shoulder mount, and Dad killed a mouflon ram, and we had that as a shoulder mount. And Mother said, no more. No more.
So it's fair to say that you're probably a pretty accurate shot.
I used to be. And the last time I shot in the gun 2 years ago, I was still accurate. But, you know, after Dad was gone, and my cousin with whom I hunted, and then James also, I tried hunting one season. And then I said, Rebecca, what are you doing out here on this hunting lease by yourself? I thought that was about the worst thing I could have done, because what if I had gotten shot accidentally?
Yes.
I had nobody to help me.
Yes.
I said, no, you're not doing this anymore. And I could go out to Harper right now and hunt with my cousins. They can't hit the broadside of a barn, though. That scares me. So I don't hunt anymore. Maybe one of these days I might do it. But as you say, I have plenty of horns there. Plus, I have some horns mounted on some boards that are not covered yet. And I've got 54 of those.
Oh my gosh, you did your share of hunting.
I kept those. You know, Dad did a lot of those too. And I just kept them and had them all varnished. And they're on these real nice boards. And maybe someday I'll have another room to put them in or something like that.
Well, Rebecca, I want to get into what I know you for the most. I've done my homework on you, and one thing that surprised me before I get into all your volunteer work, and just real quickly, I did not know that at one time you owned a beauty spa, a hair salon, a women's clothing, and a drive-in grocery.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Basically, in a nutshell, where were all those at?
Fredericksburg.
In Fredericksburg.
In Fredericksburg, yes. I was teaching school and needed to make a little extra money, so I got a job working at the grocery store, the little driving convenience store, for $1 an hour, plus 10% off the groceries, and I did that. I would work there from 4 o'clock until 10. And while I was doing that then, and the girls, I was, you know, taking them around to, they had to go to band practice, you know, drill team practice, Girl Scouting, that kind of thing. I don't know how I did it all, but I did and got it done. And I had also 2 employees helping at the grocery store that were great. And on weekends, Mother loved to come up and work at the store, and she'd always bring a cake. She'd bake cake, and we'd serve coffee and cake, and Dad would fill the ice bags and that kind of thing.
So they helped you out.
Oh, yes. Dad was my silent partner in there. And anyway, I did that, and then I started taking exercise at a salon in Kerrville, and they wanted to sell their equipment, so I bought the equipment, brought it to Fredericksburg, rented the whole top of the old Methodist building for $75 a month, set up the equipment, started a health salon, got this one lady who was really good at doing that, so she would do that, and then I would run over at a certain time and do what's called happy hour. That's where you got down on the floor, you touch your nose to your toes and that kind of thing.
And you could do that?
Yeah. And then Roxy came in and she helped with that because she was very limber. Then I had an opportunity to buy out this lady who had a dress shop, so I bought that out, and Renee ran the dress shop. That's how she got into fashion merchandising. The beauty shop I bought in Austin, that was the bummer. I thought, oh, I'd like to have a beauty shop that I could go to and get my hair done anytime. Never could. And these 2 men were running it, and they were just stealing from me, literally, right and left, until I put a woman manager in there, and that's put a stop to that. But then I finally said, okay, this has got to go, and I learned a good lesson. If you don't know that business and you really can't do it, don't get into it. Right. But all the others were great. We had the buying power to go to Dallas and buy anything we wanted very cheaply, you know. And then the exercise. That was excellent. In fact, I sold the health salon to that lady after I went to Houston to teach. I was there about 2 years, and then she went ahead and bought it.
Rebecca, where do you think that you developed your, because I'm getting ready to get into your volunteer history. Where do you think this comes from in giving back to your community? Because you've been so involved in Blanco.
Well, from my mother and dad both. I mean, Dad was always helping this one and that one and the other, and with the church and all, and Mother was always doing that. Nobody came into town, but she didn't go and visit them. First question was, what church do you belong to? Then she'd take them a cake or a pie or cookies or something. She was always doing the baking. I told them, I said, that's not happening since she's gone. I don't do that. But anyway, I know Mrs. Stobaugh told me after Mother was gone, she said, your mother asked me what church you belong in. I told her Lutheran, and she said, I'll be by to get you for the Ladies' Aid. No problem. She went by and got her and took her to the Ladies' Aid. And that's the way Mother was. And then I don't know, all my teaching career, I just saw so many kids that they would need notebook paper, they'd need colors, they would need this, they would need that, and I would just bring it to the classroom and have it for them. And I just enjoy doing for others. That's one thing I really want to do. Till God calls me, I want to be able to do for others.
Well, I think what you just said is a very true statement, and I'm going to need to take a few moments here because the list is lengthy of what all you've done. It's lengthy, and I'm sure I'm going to miss a few things, so you stop me when I'm going to miss it. You've been a member of Keep Blanco Beautiful from the first trash off day in 2000, and you served as president until 2006. Mm-hmm. You've been a member of Trinity Lutheran Church since 1934. Mm-hmm. You've served on the council, the Altar Guild, women's group member, worked with the rummage sale for the fall, plays the piano for communion during the services at the Live Oak Medical Center. Mm-hmm. You've organized many projects for the Lutheran World Relief, taught Sunday school, and worked Vacation Bible School. Did I about cover the Lutheran Church? Yeah, you pretty much did there. Yeah, and Mother started me out when I was 12 years old, playing the organ. Playing the organ. Did you know how to? Yeah, well, I didn't really know how to play the organ per se, but Mother had been making me take lessons since I was 6 years old from Mrs. Norval. And then the pastor said he didn't marry a woman that could play the organ, see? So the pastor said, we need somebody to play this organ. Mother said, Rebecca will do it. San Antonio for 6 lessons, and I became the organist down there at Trinity. See, our church was down there at Twin Sisters, and we had a pump organ, and so I had to play there. And she didn't ask me then, and at that time, too, Cora Upshaw came to my mother one day and said, oh, could Rebecca play down at our church at Peyton Colony? Really? Oh, yes. And Mother said she'd be happy to. So Mother and Ruth Wall and I went to down to Peyton Colony Church, and I played the piano down there. The more you talk about your mother and in decisions about you, it seems like at those moments you didn't have much of a chance for a way to get a word in edgewise. No, and there wasn't any of this discussion like children do today. Oh, no. There was no discussion. You will do this. This is it, you know. All right. Well, I need to keep going because the as you said, you worked with the Stonewall Head Start program, and it was not unusual. People would make the comment to see Mrs. Becky down on the floor and crawling through the tunnels with the little children following her. Yeah. You would get on the floor. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I know. All right. Oh, I've gotten on many floors when I was teaching, and one time I was down there with a little boy. He was looking for a pencil, and we were down on the floor. The rest of the class was sitting there. This was in St. Mary's, and we were looking. I said, what are we looking for? My pencil I lost. I said, okay, we'll find it here. Or I remember doing
cartwheels one time in my class to get their attention for something that we were doing special, you know. Hey, well, you know, attention getters.
That's right.
Whatever.
Okay. You were a member and the chair of the Blanco Historical Commission in 1986. You were appointed co-chair for the Blanco Sesquicentennial celebration in 2008. And you were very involved in obtaining a recorded Texas historical landmark for Blanco Cemetery, of which you yourself purchased the emblem that now is at the cemetery. You also serve as the grounds superintendent.
Yeah, that's my job now. I'm superintendent of the grounds.
And your reason for wanting to take such good care of the cemetery is what?
Because I have so much family out there, and I'll be there one day. Yeah, I've got uncles and aunts out there and cousins by the dozens. The whole Beckman clan is there. My great-grandfather and grandmother and grandma and grandpa. And then I've got all of these, his sons and daughters are even there.
Do you think that you've instilled this caring for the cemetery into others that will follow your steps?
I don't know. That's why I'm hoping to get a couple of more men on there. We need some men to help me in being the superintendent of the grounds, and I need to train them, and so that they can carry on. I have talked to one young man whose grandfather will be there, and his great-grandfather's already there, so I would like for him to come on board, and he said yes, he would be glad to.
Well,
and that's what we need, is some young people to step forward.
That's right.
And learn all of these things before it's too late.
Now, you have been active in Sons of Herman since 2004, a member since 1966. Oh, and you received the Humanitarian of the Year award in 2003. You have served as president and vice president of Lodge 138 at Twin Sisters, and served on the chair committee for the Twin Sisters Lodge, and I mean cheer like Yahoo, Yahoo.
Yeah, we did Relay for Life one time, you know, and then we have done hands together with the Catholic Church, gone down there and cleaned the cemetery down there, you know, and things like that. And yeah, I get tickled out of we are very friendly visiting lodge. That's for
good.
Sure.
That's good. All right, now a couple of other things. You're a member of the Women's Auxiliary of the Eagles.
Yes,
only you are a member of Good Samaritan. And you volunteer weekly on the Lutheran women's team.
We are now the Women of the Word. That is because we are the Lutheran Christian Mission Church. And so Saturday we're going to have our fall fundraiser, and there are 4 of us that call ourselves the Wow Girls, and we're going to be singing. You know, and of course we have the great Darlene Kiernan to play for us. That makes a big difference right there.
I believe you've also been involved. In fact, I know you've been involved with the Blanco Streetscape.
Oh yes, yes.
And have you also been involved with the Saving the Blanco State Park?
Oh yes.
All right. I'm not done.
Now,
one of the things that I think surprised you is that you received the highest honor from the Masons, the Texas Masonic Lodge, as the Community Builder Award.
Yeah.
Did that come as a surprise to you?
Very much so.
How did you feel about that?
Well, I don't consider that a lot of the things that I do is just, you know, I just do them. And I don't consider that they have that much merit. But I was so thrilled. I mean, it was quite a surprise. I wish my mother had been here to see that, and Dad, you know.
I'm sure you do.
But it was wonderful. I have a lot of wonderful awards that have been given to me over the last 40 years, and I just go along and do what I feel like I ought to do, you know, and people tolerate me.
Well, they respect you, Rebecca.
No,
they don't tolerate you, they respect you. I think they do. And now I'm saving the best two for last.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay.
You've also done some acting. because you were in the movie True Grit.
Yeah,
as an extra.
Yes.
And I don't know if many people know it, but if they run through the whole film and go through the credits to where they're showing what they did in each town, Miss Rebecca is shown walking up dressed in her full outfit.
Oh, wow.
You did not know
No,
that?
I didn't know that.
Yes, ma'am. You need to go to the very end of it, and you are there bigger than life.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
So you were
forevermore.
on film because something happened down there, didn't it?
Yeah, we were in the scene with the hanging.
Uh-huh.
You know, I thought about that very carefully. I thought if those guys would accidentally step off, they would really be hung, because they did have those ropes around their necks. And we were all standing there, and it was so hot. And we had all this clothing on, and they had not allowed us to have a sip of water. And we had a sip, and I was standing there, and the next thing I know, I heard someone say, "We have one down." And the one was me. I had gone to the ground, you know, passed out. Wow. I came to, and they were bringing in a van and ushering me out, carrying me. This one guy, oh, he was a nice hunk of man. He had me in there, and they took me all the way to Austin, to the hospital there, and they were so nice to me there. And then they sent another van back to get me and all like that. But that was the end of that acting there.
Well, you are actually on the film.
Wow. But you know, I've been in 12 other plays. The last one I was in was Smoke on the Mountain, and I just love that play. It was in Fredericksburg, and then I was also Ms. Boyle in Agatha Christie's Mousetrap.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, thank God they killed me in the first act, because they had so many lines to learn in the second act. And the man who is the current mayor of Fredericksburg was the director, and he is so fabulous. He can play piano, he sings, and he can memorize lines like that.
Yeah.
And just wonderful. He said, now, Ms. Howerton, you will have to practice when you're driving to Blanco and back every day. You must practice saying going, running, doing, seeing, not gonna and doing and a running. And so I did for that play. I tried, but I still had a very Texas drawl.
Well, it's kind of hard to get rid of.
Texas
Now,
drawl.
you've also served as a member of the Blanco City Council. I believe you started in May 1998, and if I'm not mistaken, you served 5 consecutive terms. Am I correct on
Yeah,
that?
I was there 14 years.
Okay, I want to talk to you about that, Rebecca, for 2 reasons. I want to get your input on, it's going to come in 2 questions. Can you tell me the good part of serving on the council?
The good part is that you were always there. I was always there to listen to people and see what I could do for them. Unfortunately, keeping in mind, though, that you have all of those other people on that council that might or might not vote for you. But at least I was there. People would call me, and they say, oh, you know, we've got a problem on this. Can you come and look at it? And I'd say, sure, I'll be over there and take a look. Mm-hmm. And that's what one thing I miss right now is people calling me and asking me for help.
What is your biggest disappointment while serving on the city council?
My biggest...
I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't want to hear it.
My biggest disappointment is that you have a person who is not a council member nor a mayor that is running this city. And that has been the case for 18 years. Mm-hmm. And that until that person is gone, and you have some people sitting there and thinking on their own 2 feet, and not letting somebody who controls the pocketbook do the thinking, you're not going to get anything done. There are too many times it's going to be no, no.
Right.
We can't do that. No, no. And that's wrong.
I think, Rebecca, that your wish is maybe going to happen eventually, and I'll tell you why. Because You know it and I know it. This town is growing. It's going to eventually come a push to shove to where there'll have to be a lot of changes.
That is true.
But one thing I want to tell you personally, I got in on the planning and zoning, and without question, I barely knew you, but you took me and treated me with great respect, and I will be forever grateful for that. I hope one day that I can give back a smidgen to Blanco of what you've given. I was very touched by your caring nature.
Thank
I
you.
learned a lot by watching you.
Thank you.
Blanco's been lucky to have you, Rebecca.
Well, we may have some different people running this next time around anyway, that's for sure.
That's what I think so.
You know, it's going to have to come to that because the streetscaping will do wonders for this town in making it look nice and safety. It is so unsafe down there on the corner of 4th and Pecan right now. You have to literally drive out into the street just to look around the cars that are parked there. And so that'll help a whole lot, you know. And then we have to fix the city sewage lines. We've got to do some more correcting on the water lines. And I told Nathan, I said, why don't we build a new water plant? Oh, that costs too much money. I said, so? Well, we don't have the money. Oh, so? You know, you get grants.
That's right.
You sell bonds.
That's
you
right.
do this,
and
period.
Happen.
It'll come about.
Rebecca, if you could look at Blanco and look down the line, you had your crystal ball, and you could look at it in 5 years to 10 years, what do you think you're going to see?
5 to 10 years from now, they'll show some improvements, but unless we get a turnaround on our economy around here, we're going to be in very bad shape 5 years from now, because we've already lost, in just a year and a half, we lost 6 businesses that closed. A lot of, when you drive up and down the streets, you will see on some streets there'll be 3 homes for sale. And the people that originally bought them moved here because it was a nice, quiet town. But they're seeing that also the economy is very bad here, so they're having to drive to Austin. They have to drive to San Antonio to make a living. The gas costs now are hitting them so badly that they're leaving their homes and going to find apartments down there so they don't have to drive so far. The economy is affecting small businesses like the beauty shops. Men are letting their hair grow longer and not having one haircut a month, you know, instead of 2 or 3. It's all changing a whole lot. So we've got to have a turnaround on the economy, and then if we do that, we will be getting a lot of people coming in, moving into this area, because through the museum, we have talked to a number of people from up north particularly that have said, oh, I would like to move down there. Right now there's snowbirds coming in, but they're going to sell out up north and move to this area eventually and stay. And instead of Fredericksburg getting all of this business all the time, we could be capitalizing on that. But that's going to have to come from a council that also says, let's have tourism here abundantly and not Little Mayberry.
Yes.
That's our big problem right there.
Rebecca, I'm going to try to, I could talk to you all day long because I think you're fascinating, but I want to ask you, is there a statement that you could say in how you would like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered, number one, as a teacher who loved teaching, enjoyed it so much. The problem areas, the funny things that happened, and then finally I would love to be a remembered as being a person who was always ready to help somebody, even though I was very temperamental. Very temperamental.
Well, I've known Rebecca for quite a while, and I've never seen her temper, but I will say it was always a joy to watch Rebecca in the middle of a city council meeting correcting grammar. It was priceless. And on that note, we thank Rebecca for being here with us today. It's been a glorious interview, and you are a prize.
Thank you.
Rebecca.